when a billionaire worth nearly $9 billion ties the knot with a partner young enough to be his grandson, you know the ending was never going to be simple. And now David Geffen, the legendary music and movie mogul, is ready to walk away from his whirlwind marriage. But this isn't just about heartbreak. It's about cash, contracts, rehab bills, luxury apartments, and even millions of dollars in art and jewellery. The question is, what's really at stake when two worlds collide, and who's going to walk away with the upper hand? The story began in March of 2023, when David Geffen, then 80 years old and long retired from Hollywood, surprised everyone by marrying David Andrew Armstrong, better known by his modelling name, Donovan Michaels. The couple raised eyebrows from the start, not just because of their massive age gap, but because Geffen had spent most of his career as a fiercely private mogul. For nearly 2 years, the relationship stayed mostly out of the public eye. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. By February of 2025, the two had quietly separated, and just a few months later, Geffen officially filed for divorce. What makes this even more dramatic? There was no prenuptial agreement, meaning every dollar, every asset, and every promise would suddenly be up for legal debate. When the split turned legal, Geffen made it clear he wasn't about to hand over chunks of his $8.7 billion fortune, but he was willing to cut some checks to smooth things over. In newly filed court documents, Geffen offered Armstrong up to $50,000 a month in spousal support. The catch? Those payments would last only a year, and he wanted them counted retroactively from the day they separated. Geffen claims he's already gone above and beyond. He says he gave Armstrong $200,000 in cash since the breakup, covered another $200,000 to send him to rehab, and is still letting him live rent-free in a $15,000 a month Manhattan apartment. On top of that, Armstrong allegedly has $5 million worth of art, jewellery, and watches gifted during the marriage. But here's the twist. Armstrong isn't just asking for support. He's hinting that Geffen made much bigger promises that could shake this divorce wide open. Armstrong isn't stopping at monthly checks. In fact, he's taken things a step further with a lawsuit that could flip the entire case on its head. According to filings, Armstrong claims Geffen made sweeping promises of lifelong financial support, a permanent home, and shared access to the lavish lifestyle that came with being married to one of the richest men in America. He argues that these weren't just casual words, but binding agreements. Armstrong accuses Geffen of cutting him off financially, pushing him out of properties, and leaving him to fend for himself after the split. Some reports even suggest he feels blindsided, that what he thought was a lifelong arrangement was suddenly ripped away after less than 2 years. If a court believes those promises were real, Geffen could be forced to pay far more than just a year of spousal support. But if it all comes down to proof, Armstrong may face an uphill battle. And that's where Geffen's legal machine kicks into high gear. Geffen, for his part, is firing back hard. His legal team, led by powerhouse attorney Laura Wasser, better known in Hollywood as the Disso Queen, flat out denies Armstrong's claims of any lifelong deal. According to Geffen, there was no contract, no binding promises, and no reason his estranged husband should expect a permanent ticket to the billionaire lifestyle. In fact, Geffen insists the marriage is already undoubtedly broken down and wants the court to end it as quickly as possible, officially restoring him to single status. He points to the short length of the marriage, just 23 months, and argues that at the time he was already retired, already wealthy, and not building any new assets with Armstrong. Translation: there's no community property to divide, and no basis for Armstrong to claim a piece of that $8.7 billion fortune. But here's where it gets even messier. Geffen also accuses Armstrong of trying to pressure him with threats of a smear campaign in the media. If true, it would mean this divorce isn't just a courtroom battle, it's a war for public perception. Now, here's where the law itself becomes a character in this drama. California has some of the strictest divorce rules in the country, and without a prenup, everything defaults to community property and spousal support guidelines. But because this marriage lasted less than 2 years, Armstrong's options are far more limited than they might seem. In short marriages, California judges typically award support for about half the length of the marriage. That means, in Armstrong's case, at most a single year of financial backing, not a lifetime arrangement. Geffen's offer of 12 months at $50,000 a month isn't just random generosity, it's almost exactly what the law would likely require. Armstrong's only way around that, proving there was some kind of separate deal, whether written, verbal, or implied, that went beyond what California courts normally allow. And that's a high bar to clear. But as we've already seen, Armstrong insists those promises existed, while Geffen swears they never did. Behind the legal filings, whispers and rumours paint an even more complicated picture. Armstrong, according to reports, expected more than just temporary support. He allegedly believed Geffen had promised him security for life. Whether that meant permanent housing, ongoing financial backing, or simply staying connected to Geffen's immense wealth. The details are murky, but the speculation is fueling the drama. Then there's the matter of gifts. Armstrong is said to be sitting on millions in luxury watches, fine jewellery, and artwork bought by Geffen during the relationship, valued at around $5 million. Some fans see it as proof that Armstrong already got more than most could dream of. Others argue those gifts only reinforce the idea that Geffen set a precedent of long-term financial care. And hanging over it all is the question no one wants to say out loud. Did Armstrong truly believe this was a love story? Or was it always a deal of convenience? Youth and companionship traded for wealth and security. We may never know the truth, but speculation like this is exactly what keeps the headlines alive. So where does this explosive battle go from here? The next stage is likely to be a drawn-out fight in court, where every gift, every bank transfer, and every alleged promise will be picked apart. Geffen wants the judge to rubber stamp his offer and free him from the marriage immediately. Armstrong, meanwhile, is pushing for recognition of what he calls broken commitments. Claims that, if accepted, could force Geffen to pay out far more than he's offering. The stakes are enormous, not just financially, but symbolically. This case highlights the collision between unimaginable wealth and the expectations that can form in age-gap marriages. If Armstrong succeeds, it could send shockwaves through Hollywood's elite, many of whom rely on private arrangements to protect their fortunes. If Geffen wins, it may reinforce the idea that, at least in California, the courts lean heavily toward the letter of the law over verbal promises. Either way, this divorce isn't just about ending a marriage. It's about setting a precedent that could echo far beyond one billionaire's personal life. At the end of the day, this story isn't just about David Geffen and David Armstrong. It's about power, promises, and what happens when love collides with extreme wealth. Was Armstrong misled into believing he'd be taken care of forever? Or was he simply expecting more than the law allows? And was Geffen generous for offering what amounts to millions in support, or calculating in trying to cap the damage as quickly as possible? What's certain is that both men walked into this marriage from very different worlds, and now the fallout is exposing every imbalance. It's a reminder that money doesn't just complicate relationships, it can redefine them entirely. But now I want to hear from you. Should Armstrong get more for nearly 2 years of marriage to a billionaire, or is Geffen already offering more than enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories where Hollywood glamour meets real-life drama.